Hello, Reformed Mythologist Nate Morgan Locke here with a myth about work and struggle and how it all feels never-ending. Sisyphus was a Greek king of the ancient city of Corinth before it was called Corinth. He was the son of Aeolus and was married to the Pleiad Merope. Our story begins when Sisyphus was failing to abide by the hospitality codes of Zeus. Instead of looking after his guests, he was assaulting them and doing murderings. This made the divine scumbag Zeus angry because, amongst other things, he was the god of treating strangers and foreigners nicely. Which seems odd since he didn't treat his own wife Hera very nicely, but instead went off having affairs with all manner of nymphs and gods and mortals. On one such occasion, Zeus had carried off Aegina, the daughter of a river god named Sisyphus, and Sisyphus saw where they went. When Sisyphus questioned him, Sisyphus said that he would only give information if the river god would supply the city of Corinth with a fresh water spring. Sisyphus agreed, and Sisyphus told him where Zeus had taken his daughter. Zeus narrowly escaped Sisyphus' vengeance and ordered that Hades should send Thanatos, aka Death, to kill Sisyphus. When Thanatos came to Corinth to bind Sisyphus and take him down to Tartarus, Sisyphus asked him to demonstrate how the handcuffs worked. Thanatos obliged, and wouldn't you know, Sisyphus refused to let him out and kept him as his prisoner. Sisyphus had literally cheated death. After a short while, the gods began to notice that the mortals weren't being very mortal anymore, since death was unable to get to them. No one noticed more than Ares, the god of war, whose battlefields were now filling up with beheaded soldiers who were still alive. Eventually, Ares got to Corinth, freed Thanatos, and Sisyphus again faced judgment. This time, however, Sisyphus managed to convince his wife Merope to refuse him a proper burial. The plan worked. He was thrown off a roof and died in the middle of the city, and without the proper burial rites, he went down into Tartarus. When Persephone asked for his death certificate, he played innocent. He totally hadn't realised he would need one. And so, getting out on a technicality, Sisyphus had cheated death a second time. By now, pretty much all the gods were annoyed with Sisyphus and decided to bring their retribution in the form of a punishment worse than death. They decreed that Sisyphus would have to return to the land of the dead and push a boulder up a mountain. But every time he made it to the top, the boulder would roll down to the bottom, and Sisyphus would have to start all over again. Every time. No matter what. Forever. So what to make of it? Though he's mortal, Sisyphus feels like the god of meaningless drudgery, the endless soul-crushing work which never seems to get anywhere and doesn't seem to have a purpose. His punishment gets applied to everything from laundry to paperwork. It doesn't matter how much you do, there will always be more of it tomorrow. For many of us, especially as we get into adulthood, our lives and our work can feel pointless, arduous and futile. French philosopher Albert Camus was convinced that life had no meaning other than that we make ourselves. He wrote a book called The Myth of Sisyphus and argued that we should imagine Sisyphus happy. He cast Sisyphus as the absurd hero, finding meaning and happiness in things which have no meaning. But it turns out that imposing meaning and happiness is actually even more difficult than the original boulder pushing. It's worth remembering that Sisyphus was being punished, and without the earlier parts of the story, the ending doesn't make sense. A biblical understanding of life works in much the same way. It's only after eating the forbidden fruit that Adam is told his work on earth will be tiring and arduous. The gods force Sisyphus into perpetual struggle, and none of them lifts a finger to help him. But the Christian God is really quite different indeed. While Adam is told that the ground will frustrate his labour, in the very same conversation, the Lord God promises that he will send someone to rescue him. The second Adam, Jesus, whose work will be to take the punishment, break the curse, and bring meaning and rest. Rolling stones turn up in the Jesus story too. On the third day after his death, the large stone which was covering his grave was found to have been rolled away. Angels were sitting on it. The work was over and it was time to enjoy a break. That's why Christians are so excited about Sundays. So what do you make of the myth of Sisyphus? Leave your comments below and we'll include them in the follow-up video in which I'll go into more detail on how this myth relates to the good news of Jesus. I've been Reformed Mythologist Nate Morgan Locke. I'm glad you were here.